There's something you already know, and you've probably never said it out loud. Your job isn't actually paying you for your time. It's paying you for a specific problem you already know how to solve, over and over, for one single customer, the company that happens to sign your paycheck. And that exact skill, the one problem you've already proven you can solve, is sitting there completely unused for anyone else who might also pay for it. Here's what nobody tells you. A job and a business aren't as different as they look. A job is a business with exactly one client, no ownership and no say in the price. Strip away those 3 restrictions, one at a time, and what's left underneath is something you could actually own. Before we go further, I want to be straight with you about something most videos like this one conveniently skip. Not everyone starts this conversation from the same place. Some people have savings to fall back on. Some don't. Some have access to capital, family who can lend a hand, a spouse's income covering the bills while they figure things out. Others have none of that. And every viral success story you've ever heard leaves out the thousands of people who tried the exact same thing and simply didn't make it. Not because they lacked hustle, but because survivorship bias only ever tells you about the ones who won. This video isn't going to pretend those realities don't exist. It's going to work with them directly, because the path from job to business looks different depending on how much cushion you actually have, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. If that kind of honesty is what you actually want from this channel, subscribe now, because that's exactly the standard everything here gets held to. You were told, get a stable job, work your way up, and financial security will follow. What they didn't tell you is that a job, however stable, has a hard ceiling built into its structure. And the only way past that ceiling is understanding exactly which parts of a job are actually the early architecture of a business, hiding in plain sight. Machiavelli understood the difference between serving a single master and building independent strength better than almost anyone. He said a man who depended entirely on one lord for his position held that position only as long as the lord's favor lasted, while a man who built his own base of strength, even a modest one, held something no single relationship could take away from him. Hold on for a second, because this next part actually matters. If you're the kind of person watching this who's genuinely serious about building something of your own, not just collecting motivational videos and going back to the same routine tomorrow, I want you properly in the family. We just opened a channel membership, and inside it, we go deeper than any single video. Real strategy for people who actually want to become owners, not stay employees forever. It's not for everyone, and it was never meant to be. It's for the people in this audience who are actually serious about where the next chapter of their life goes. If that's you, the join button is right below this video. Come build with us. Now, back to the job you're sitting in right now. Money works exactly the same way. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never hear. Your job already contains the raw materials of a business. The skill, the proof you can solve a real problem, the relationships, all of it already exists. What's missing isn't talent or luck. It's the deliberate decision to extract those materials and build something of your own on top of them. I didn't understand this from a business course. I understood it from spending years inside a job, genuinely good at what I did, and never once asking whether the specific problem I was solving for my employer might be worth solving for other people too. There was a period where I believed the job itself was the ceiling, that my only real path forward was a better title, a bigger salary, climbing whatever ladder happened to be in front of me. It wasn't until I actually sat down and separated what I did from who I did it for that I noticed something obvious in hindsight. The skill wasn't owned by the company. It was owned by me. I had simply never once considered selling it to anyone else. It wasn't until I started testing that skill outside the job, quietly, on the side, that anything actually changed. That's when Machiavelli's distinction between borrowed position and built strength stopped being an old line about medieval lords and became the exact explanation for years spent building someone else's business instead of my own. And if that idea stings a little right now, good. Because the sting usually means a real opportunity just became visible, sitting exactly where your paycheck already comes from. History proves this pattern relentlessly. Take Oprah Winfrey. She began as a local television news anchor, working inside a structure entirely controlled by someone else. Her schedule, her content, her career path, all decided by an employer. Rather than accepting that structure permanently, she made a specific, deliberate choice over the course of her career. She pushed for ownership and creative control over her own work, eventually building her own production company, and, later, an entire media network built on the exact skill she'd first proven inside someone else's building. That deliberate shift from being paid for a skill inside someone else's structure to owning the structure that skill eventually built is a significant part of why her name became attached to one of the most recognized media businesses in the world. She understood something most people never grasp. A job proves a skill has value. A business simply asks who actually owns that value once it's been proven. That's the real subject of this video, not another lecture about quitting your job overnight. This is the specific, honest mechanism for extracting a business from the job you're already doing. Working with real constraints instead of pretending they don't exist. There are 10 of them. Let's go through everyone. Move 1. They separate the skill from the employer currently paying for it. Most people describe their skill entirely in terms of their current job title, never separating the actual, transferable skill from the one specific company currently paying for it. Machiavelli believed that a ruler's true strength lived in his own ability, not in whichever position happened to be currently providing it. And that confusing the two left a person dangerously dependent on a single, revocable source. Here's what fused thinking looks like. Someone describes what they do entirely through their job title. I'm a marketing coordinator at this company, rather than through the underlying, portable skill that title actually represents. Here's what separated thinking looks like instead. Someone identifies the specific, transferable skill underneath the job title, the actual problem they know how to solve, and asks directly who else, beyond their current employer, might also pay to have that exact problem solved. A job title describes a single relationship. The skill underneath it belongs entirely to you, and it's worth exactly as much to other people as it currently is to the one employer who happens to be paying for it right now. Now pause for a second. Think about the specific transferable skill sitting underneath your current job title, separate from the company name attached to it. Put it into a word or two in your mind, because that skill, once separated clearly, is the actual raw material this entire video is about to show you how to use. Move 2. They build proof of that skill outside the job before they ever need to leave it. Most people wait until they've already left a job to start proving their skill can work outside it, discovering, often painfully, that the proof should have been built months or years earlier, while the job was still funding the attempt. Machiavelli believed in testing strength on a small scale before committing fully, understanding that proof gathered early, while resources were still secure, cost far less than proof gathered later, under real financial pressure. Here's what waiting looks like. Someone stays entirely inside their job, never testing the transferable skill anywhere else, until the day they finally leave, discovering only then whether that skill actually has value outside the specific structure it was proven inside. Here's what building proof early looks like instead. Someone tests the exact same skill in a small, low-stakes way while still employed. A single-site client, a small independent project, gathering real evidence the skill transfers, long before any decision about leaving the job ever has to be made. Proof gathered while still employed costs almost nothing to gather. The exact same proof, gathered only after leaving, often comes at the cost of the income that would have made gathering it safe. Move 3. They build around unequal access to capital instead of pretending it doesn't exist. There's a specific dishonesty in most advice about starting a business. It assumes everyone has roughly the same starting resources, savings, family support, credit access, when in reality, that access varies enormously and shapes what a realistic first move actually looks like. Machiavelli never advised weak proposition to fight as though it held a strong one. He believed strategy had to be built around actual, honest resources, not around resources someone wished they had. Here's what ignoring capital access looks like. Someone follows generic advice, built for people with significant savings or family support, attempting a large, capital-intensive first move that simply isn't realistic given their own actual financial position, and getting discouraged when it doesn't work. Here's what building around real access looks like instead. Someone honestly assesses their actual available capital, low, moderate, or substantial, and deliberately chooses a first move sized to match that reality. A low-cost service business, rather than an inventory-heavy one, for instance, rather than forcing a strategy built for a different starting position entirely. The right first move was never universal. It depends entirely on actual, honest access to capital, and pretending otherwise sets an unrealistic first step up to fail before it even begins. Now pause again. Think honestly about your own actual access to capital right now. Savings, support, credit, and what kind of first business move that access genuinely allows for. 1 or 2 words, that's enough. Because building a strategy sized to your real starting point beats chasing advice built for someone else's. Move 4. They convert the employer's problem into their own repeatable service. Most people solve the exact same problem repeatedly inside their job, without ever asking whether that specific, repeatable problem could be sold directly to other people facing the same one. Machiavelli valued recognizing a repeated pattern and building deliberately around it, rather than treating each instance as a separate, disconnected event with nothing to be learned or built from it. Here's what missing the pattern looks like. Someone solves the same type of problem for their employer, month after month, treating each instance as simply another task to complete, never noticing that the repeated problem itself is the actual, sellable product hiding inside the job. Here's what converting it looks like instead. Someone identifies the specific, repeatable problem they're already solving, and asks directly whether other businesses or individuals facing that exact same problem would pay to have it solved, converting a repeated task into a standalone, sellable service. A problem solved once for one employer is a job. The exact same problem solved repeatedly for multiple paying customers is the actual foundation of a business. Move 5. They own the relationship with the client, not just the task assigned to them. There's a specific structural feature of most jobs that quietly prevents them from ever becoming a business. The relationship with the actual client or customer belongs entirely to the employer, not to the employee doing the work. Machiavelli understood that whoever controlled the relationship controlled the ongoing value, regardless of who actually performed the underlying work. Here's what task-only positioning looks like. Someone completes excellent work for a client they never directly interact with. The relationship, the trust, the ongoing account entirely owned by the employer, meaning none of that relational value transfers, if the employee ever leaves. Here's what relationship ownership looks like instead. Someone deliberately builds direct, ownable relationships wherever ethically and structurally possible, understanding that a relationship they personally hold is worth infinitely more, long-term, than a task performed anonymously on someone else's behalf. A task performed for an employer's client builds the employer's business. A relationship built and owned directly is the actual seed of your own. Move 6. They negotiate for equity or ownership wherever the opportunity genuinely exists. Most people never consider that a job itself can sometimes be converted, at least partially, into ownership, simply because the option is never explicitly offered and never explicitly requested either. Machiavelli believed that opportunities for genuine ownership rarely announced themselves. They had to be actively identified and request one paying close enough attention to notice they existed at all. Here's what accepting pure employment looks like. Someone works inside a company for years, contributing real, lasting value, never once asking whether some portion of that value could be converted into an actual ownership stake, rather than remaining purely a salary. Here's what negotiating for ownership looks like instead. Someone identifies situations, a startup, a smaller company, a role with real strategic value, where equity or partial ownership is genuinely possible, and directly asks for it, understanding that the ask itself often costs nothing beyond the discomfort of asking. A pure salary pays for time once, indefinitely. Even a small ownership stake keeps paying long after any single unit of time has already been spent. Now pause once more. Think about whether you've ever actually asked your current or a past employer about equity or ownership, or simply assumed the option didn't exist. One word is enough, because that assumption may have quietly cost you access to real ownership that was actually available the entire time. Move 7. They study the realistic failure patterns, not just the one success story everyone quotes. Most people entering this process study only the highlight reel version of success, the one person everyone talks about, without ever studying the far larger, quieter group of people who attempted something nearly identical and didn't make it. Machiavelli studied failed rulers as closely as successful ones, understanding that failure patterns, honestly examined, taught lessons the celebrated success stories conveniently left out entirely. Here's what survivorship blind thinking looks like. Someone builds their entire plan around a single celebrated success story, assuming that story represents the typical outcome, without ever asking how many people attempted the same path and simply never made it far enough to be talked about. Here's what honest study looks like instead. Someone deliberately seeks out the specific, common reasons similar attempts fail, building real safeguards against those documented failure points, rather than assuming their own attempt is somehow exempt from the pattern everyone else quietly ran into. The celebrated success story is real. It's also one data point out of a much larger group most people never hear about. And building a plan around only that one point is building on incomplete information. Move 8. They build in the margins first, nights and weekends, before dependency ever becomes necessary. There's a specific discipline in building the earliest version of a business entirely inside the hours the job doesn't already claim, rather than assuming full-time focus is required from the very beginning. Machiavelli believed in testing new strength gradually, using whatever margin was genuinely available, rather than committing everything at once before the new position had actually proven itself. Here's what premature full commitment looks like. Someone leaves the job entirely, betting on a business idea that's never actually been tested, removing the very income cushion that would have made testing it safely possible in the first place. Here's what margin building looks like instead. Someone builds and tests the earliest version of the business entirely, nights, weekends, and other available margin, using the job's continued income to fund and de-risk that early testing before ever considering a full transition. A business tested in the margins, funded by a still active job, gets built calmly. The same business, attempted only after the job is already gone, gets built under exactly the wrong kind of pressure. Move 9. They protect the transition with real numbers, not vibes. Most people decide when to actually leave their job based on a feeling, of a sense of readiness or frustration, rather than a specific calculated number that genuinely justifies the transition. Machiavelli distrusted decisions made purely on feeling, believing that a ruler's most important moves should be grounded in careful, realistic calculation rather than momentary emotion. Here's what feeling-based transition looks like. Someone leaves a stable job because the frustration finally became unbearable. Without a clear, calculated income floor, the emerging business has actually proven it can reliably hit. Here's what number-based transition looks like instead. Someone sets a specific, realistic income threshold the side business needs to reliably hit consistently over a defined period before the job is actually left, removing emotion from what should be a calculated decision. Leaving a job on a feeling risks everything on a hope. Leaving it on a proven number risks it on evidence that's already been tested. Move 10. They understand a job becomes a business the moment income stops, depending on their personal presence. This is the move that ties every other one together, and it's the reason this entire video exists. Every move we've covered, separating skill from employer, building proof early, working with real capital access, converting repeated problems into services, owning relationships, negotiating equity, studying realistic failure, building in the margins, protecting the transition with real numbers, they all point toward the exact same underlying shift. A job pays for your presence. A business pays regardless of it, and every single move on this list exists purely to close that specific gap. Machiavelli never believed strength was measured by activity alone. He believed it was measured by what continued functioning even when the person who built it stepped away. Here's what this looks like in real life. You finish this video, you already know, right now, which of these 10 moves is most obviously missing from how you currently think about the job you're sitting in. Not vaguely. Specifically, you already have one in mind. The version of you who actually builds a business doesn't wait for permission or perfect circumstances to start extracting it. They start today, testing the skill in whatever small, honest way their actual resources currently allow. The version of you who stays stuck, closes this video, feels briefly aware of the opportunity, and returns tomorrow to the exact same job, still describing themselves purely by their title instead of by the transferable skill underneath it. The only real difference between those two people was never talent or luck, or even starting resources. It was whether they ever actually separated the skill from the job that was currently the only place selling it. Take even one of these 10 moves and apply it this week, and everything else on this list becomes far easier to build on top of. Now, don't think about quitting your job tomorrow. Think about the one skill sitting inside your current job right now, the one nobody else is currently paying you to use anywhere else, not analyzing it further, not waiting for the perfect moment to test it, just naming it. One word, that's the whole exercise, because that word is the first material in a business that was quietly sitting inside your job the entire time, waiting for someone to actually notice it was there. Wealth was never reserved for people who started with more capital, more connections, or an easier structural position than everyone else. It was, and still is, available to people who honestly worked with whatever position they actually had, and extracted every real advantage available inside it. If this shifted the way you see your own job, even slightly, don't stop here. Because what you've heard in this video is only the surface. There are deeper layers to ownership, leverage, and long-term wealth building that simply can't be covered fully in a single video. Not because they don't exist, but because most people aren't ready to extract this deliberately yet. If you're not one of them, then subscribe, because every video here is built to sharpen exactly this kind of extraction, close the gap between employment and ownership, and separate you from everyone still describing themselves purely by a job title, instead of the transferable skill underneath it. No fluff, no noise, just strategy. Most people will watch this and describe themselves by their job title again tomorrow. A few will close this video and start testing the skill underneath it within the hour. Decide which one you are.